Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet, and today we are interviewing the official mental health specialist for the Dark Art Society, Dave Sherman. He's been on the podcast before. He thought it might be a good time to check back in on the podcast, seeing that so many people are so stressed these days due to the politics of the country. You know, I keep this podcast relatively politics free. I explained in the interview a little bit, but it bears repeating. I keep it that way because everybody's talking about politics nowadays. Everybody, everywhere, and you know, normally I would be one of those people, but I feel like enough people are talking about it that this should stay a place that is a little bit politics free, even though I don't really feel like I'm that kind of non-political person, because I'm not. But I try and do what's right for the show and for the dark art community. And I feel like, especially now, there needs to be a place where we can focus on the art and not focus on the politics. So anyway, but this episode is a little bit political. You know, let's face it, let's get real. I know the dark art community, the vast majority are on the left or liberal or whatever you want to call it. And those are the people that are freaking out right now and feeling the stress of the big changes that are happening in the government right now. So, you know, if you're a Republican and you listen to this show, this probably isn't your episode. This is more geared towards the people who are feeling the pain right now, feeling the stress. So, just a word of warning. Although I will say, regardless of your political persuasion, the advice that Dave gave to people in this interview as to how to, you know, deal with this kind of anxiety and stress, I think it doesn't matter what you're going through. It's just general good knowledge. So anyway, it's a great conversation that's coming up. My hair is kind of weird here if you're watching on YouTube, because my wife put it in a braid because she was rubbing my shoulder because I ate shit so bad the other day. I was walking my dog, and I have a really strong pit bull who's the friendliest, sweetest dog I've ever had in my life. But we walked by a friend of ours, and her dog was barking, and my dog just gets so hyped up when she sees another dog or a person walking a dog, especially one that's barking, that she just pulled me and I lost my footing and I completely rolled. My shoe went flying. I skinned my knee really bad. I'm like, my neck is all out. It's so much pain on my right side, like old man fall, you know. Luckily, I was able to kind of roll when I fell, and because when I was a kid, I used to fall. I used to make myself fall on purpose. I was one of these kids that would just like ride down a grass hill and stick my foot in the front tire so that I flipped over the handlebars, because I knew how to, just instinctively, I knew how to roll and not get hurt. I used to do that stuff all the time, but now that I'm old, I can't really do it. But I was surprised that I kind of like, my instincts kicked in and I rolled. And I was, you know, for how hard I fell, I did all right. Anyway, that's why my hair looks weird. Not that it matters. I have to say this. I always forget, and I need to say it every time. And my sister, Rochelle, she listens. She always tells me to tell people to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video, please. And I always forget to do that. Thank you, Rochelle, for reminding me. So if you're hearing this, please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Okay, so if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/darkartsociety and join for as little as $1 a month. And if you join at the $5 and above level, you get 30% discount on any of the human skull models at Skull Shop, SKULLSHOPPE. And Yeah. If you want to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/ChetZar. And we do have a sponsor this week for the next, I think, 5 episodes, or not 5 episodes, but over the next 4-5 months or something. Okay. Our sponsor is the Beautiful Bizarre Art Prize. We did this last year. Some amazing work was entered and incredible stuff. It's a really good contest. So I'm going to read this advertisement now. Entries are now open for the 2025 Beautiful Bizarre Art Prize. There's over $70,000 worth of cash and prizes. You can enter anywhere in the world. You can enter from anywhere in the world. Better yet, you don't have to submit physical artwork. All you need to do is submit an image of your favorite piece from your portfolio. It doesn't matter if the work you enter has sold either. The Beautiful Bizarre Art Prize has 6 award categories: the Raymar Painting Award, Victoria Alt Gallery Drawing Award, Yasha Young Project Sculpture Award, Ayasha, Photography Award, Digital Art Award, and Catherine G. Gillerstrom Emerging Artist Award. There's a brand new jury panel this year, so it's a brand new chance to win, as well as a whole host of cash and product prizes. Winners will also be invited to exhibit in the Beautiful Bizarre Magazine exhibition at Haven Gallery in Northport, New York, alongside 70 of the world's best contemporary representational artists in October 2025. Better yet, the Beautiful Bizarre Magazine team guarantee they look at every single entry. This is a great way to get on their radar for future opportunities too. And they also share many of the entries on their social media and online blogs from now until entries close on the 17th of July. For more information and to enter, go to beautifulbizarreartprize.art. That's beautifulbizarreartprize.art. It's a great organization. Beautiful Bizarre Magazine's amazing. They have really great art. They're really kind of on the cutting edge of great representational kind of dark art. So I fully support these folks doing this. And I recommend to any artists trying to break into the fine art field to definitely apply and get into the Beautiful Bizarre Art Prize, because it's legit. They're cool people. And I love it. So that's it. I didn't tell you what's going on in my life. This is going to be a long intro. Aside from falling the other day, I just got working on commissions. This is my Isle of the Dead commission for a friend of mine who commissioned it years ago. It's almost done. Almost done with the first round of commissions. I got like 3 pieces that are almost done, and then I'm going to start another round of commissions, but I'm knocking them down. It's very exciting, knocking them off the list. So that's it. That's what's going on with me. So anyway, let's get on with the Dave Sherman interview. Hope you enjoy it. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Chet.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. What's going on, man?
Thank you for coming on. I mean, yeah, we were texting, and we both agreed it might be a good time to have the official mental health professional for the Dark Art Society to come on and
it's a dubious distinction at best.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Dave has been like, I don't know where we first connected. I don't even remember. Online years ago or something.
I bought some prints from you back in like 2000. I don't even 9 or 10-ish.
Wow. Okay.
I just started going back and forth with an email.
Yeah.
Like all of your team of assistants were going to get back to me, and I got an email from you. I'm like, oh my God, it's fucking Chet. Like, yeah, there's no assistance.
Yeah, there's no assistance. But anyway, Dave's become a good friend, and I've recommend. He's a what is your official title? I mean, what do you call yourself? Are you a specialize in drug counseling or regular what do you call yourself?
Well, the background was in the addictions counseling field. And I planned on, when I worked in 4 different rehabs as a primary counselor for about 12 years. And then when I resigned from that and decided to go into private practice, I was just going to be an addictions counselor. but it's spiraled out. It's one of those where people would come to me and say, look, have you ever worked with somebody with anxiety? And I'd go, well, literally every single addict I've ever worked with
Has anxiety.
So yeah, and like depression, sure. Family stuff, yes. So it just kind of life coaching, wellness coaching, it just spiraled out. And yeah.
That's good though. That's like natural unfolding of something. When you're doing something in your life you're supposed to be, I believe it kind of unfolds in a natural, organic way. Where and you're broadening out. And so anyway, I have sent
spiraling out, if you will.
spiraling out. There you go. I have sent more people to Dave. I've said anytime anyone has a problem, I'm not qualified. Anyone's having a difficult time with mental health, I'm like, go talk to Dave Sherman. Dave Sherman is the man. And everybody.
And the Republican Party, I'm going to get a summer house.
And I have to say, everybody loves you.
Thank you.
We like to break balls and stuff as friends, but everybody loves you. Everybody who I've ever, suggested.
Well, it's possible they're lying.
True. That is true.
Yeah, totally.
That's true. You do have a lot of.
I love Dave Sherman.
You do have a lot of info you could hold over their heads.
Oh yeah, blackmail, definitely.
So anyway, Dave's the man. He's helped so many people in our community, and we were talking about just texting, talking about. I think it was you brought it up that it's probably a good time to come back on the podcast since so many people are so stressed right now. Particularly, I try and keep the podcast non-political. Not because I'm non-political, but because everybody is political now. And it's not like there needs to be another voice out there saying that stuff. I try and keep this as like a place where you can kind of get away from it for a little bit.
Fair enough.
I don't know if that's wrong or right, but it's like, I just don't want to be another voice saying the same thing. We all know at this point what's going on,
Wait, what's going on? Did something happen? Look, I took ayahuasca a year ago, and I did tripping the whole time. So there's something. Why am I here?
Basically, a fascist takeover of the government.
Oh, right.
That's my perspective on it. But I don't want to bring that up all the time and talk about it because, like I said, it's so weird because I am that kind of person, and I used to talk about that. And I feel like I want to sometimes, but I also feel like it's good to have a place where you don't have to talk politics nowadays.
And that's valid. I was at a dinner party Saturday night with a bunch of very intelligent people. And, we're all cultured and we like art and appreciate and everyone's got a different career. And yet, every 4 minutes at most, it came back to what's going on politically because it's so extreme.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's
affecting all of us on a daily basis.
Yeah. It is kind of, it's crazy. But anyway, so point being, that's why I never talk politics on the show, because there's so few places you can go to really nowadays where they're not talking about it.
And I tell everyone, like, it's okay to be informed and, check the news in the morning for 10 minutes and then go about your day and then check at night for 10 minutes, just, what's going on. But take breaks. You got to take breaks. And of course, every, hour, I'm like refreshing, political subreddits. I'm losing my mind. Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Totally. I'm making that sacrifice for them. I am politically informed for everyone else.
So, yeah, and I know a lot of people are afraid and anxious and upset with Trump winning. And the kind of with Elon Musk coming to government, all this crazy stuff that's going on. A lot of, I'm sure here's the thing that I think is how do you handle this? Because, the average white male is going to be like, it's scary for us being on the left or being liberal or whatever you want to call it. But it's got to be really scary if you're LGBTQ or trans or Hispanic or black or so. I mean, they have, really have something to worry about because laws are being created against them. So what do you do to help people cope with that? People that are legitimately in danger.
And I have clients that fit into all of those categories that are really on edge. Okay. Like, are they going to get rid of gay marriage, somebody that's been married for 10 years.
Right.
Are they? I don't know. I don't know the answer to
Right.
that question. And it's one of those where we're at a precipice. Like, is it going to get much worse than it was? Probably. I
Yeah.
honestly think there's a good chance of that happening. Um, I mean, the first time he didn't know what the hell he was doing, and he surrounded himself with people that had no idea what they were doing.
Right.
This time, there's an incredibly seasoned bunch of political operatives
Yeah.
masquerading as a whatever pseudo religious organization that are really knocking off a lot of their. And it's scary, and it is really, really scary. And one of the things I'm telling people to do now, and this is a total metaphor for addiction, the fewer things that I'm focused on, the worse my life is. Like, for instance, when I was doing heroin, my whole life revolved, just so everyone knows, I've been in recovery for 26
Yeah.
years
And Dave did every drug known to man.
at the time.
Yeah. At
Yeah.
the time.
Um, yeah, I missed out on a couple new ones, but that's okay. I'll take their word for it. A trank. No, but my whole life, my whole life was focused on one thing, and at the deficit of everything else in my life. Finances and balance and health and relationships, and we're capable of doing that politically. And if I just, and granted, this is so outside the realm of normalcy, and it's easy to watch this slow motion train wreck in real time and just be like, oh my god, because
Right.
all the reality TVs are like, let's look at things that are on for Honey Boo Boo or the Jersey Shore people. Like, this is such a train wreck, and we get titillation out of that. This
Right.
is the biggest three-dimensional train wreck, but people's lives are at stake. I mean, women are already dying with the whole Roe versus Wade thing.
Right.
So it's easy to fall into that. And with social media being what it is, and we need to look at that too, and we should probably talk about that a bit.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get out of balance. And the more things I have going on in my life, because we're finally in the 60s today. I got the windows open. I was out in the backyard yesterday. The backyard's starting to wake up, and I garden and I plant and I cook and I exercise. I'm taking an introduction to drawing class and adult
Cool.
education. Totally. Like, I had my first one last Tuesday. I have no idea what I'm doing. My stick figures are awesome, but it's like, but in 6 or 7 weeks, hopefully I might actually make something worthwhile. And what we need to do is, get as many things going on in our lives at a time that aren't just one thing. We need to
Yeah.
break.
Absolutely. That's actually really good advice. Because you can't take it. You can't take it if your whole life is going on social media and seeing how the world is burning. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. There's no benefit in it either.
It's literally brilliant the way social media works.
Right.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
Every social media company, every single one of them, has a team of psychologists that aren't very ethical, probably in a windowless room, doing everything they possibly can to make the product as addictive as possible. They are literally scouring the planet for how to make dopamine hits fire, and everything about we're going to get sued. Both of us are going to get swatted over this, but and it's a brilliant feedback loop, because it's like, we're going to make you scared and anxious and angry, and then we're going to show you a sweater that if you buy that, you'll track the package as it gets to your house, and then it'll get to your house, gets you out of the anxiety feedback loop, and then you bought something, and they get a cut of that, and this is why Mark Zuckerberg has $200 billion. That's genius, and Amazon, same thing. I mean,
evil genius.
It's evil genius, and you got to remember that during COVID, their fortunes went up by a factor of 10, while everybody else was living paycheck to paycheck.
I know. That was insane. It was insane.
Fucking brilliant feedback loop.
Yeah. So
product.
How often do you does that come in your practice with, does that social media addiction come into play with other people that come to you with other addictions? It seems like especially for an addictive person, someone that has addiction issues, that social media can be. Although if you're doing heroin, maybe you don't feel the need to do social media. You're getting a better dopamine hit.
Well, once they get sober, it becomes a thing.
Okay, that makes sense. I
mean, the addictive mind is an addictive mind, and until you make those profound changes. But I know plenty of people that got sober and then decided to experiment with gambling or internet porn, or and we're seeing more and more these days that it absolutely is definitely an addiction, and people ended up with a whole lot of stuff they didn't need to buy, specifically because they felt like shit, and all of a sudden there was a product in front of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Addictive shopping.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, look, I got more art than I can put on my walls, so but I wanted to, like, during the pandemic, I was doing okay. I was making a living. And I wanted to make sure some of that went back into the world. And so I expressed gratitude. I did some pro bono groups on Zoom for artists and for musicians. And I did, I bought art from artists, straight from
Yeah.
artists, help
Yeah.
them pay the next month,
Yeah. That's super cool. That's super cool of you. Um, yeah. Yeah. What I did, it's funny, the way that this happened for me is I ended up kind of getting off social media. You tried to messenger me. I didn't see
Right.
it because
Yeah.
I am like off of there pretty much. And I only go on to promote stuff that for my business.
Yeah.
And I got on the other day for the first time in
Yeah.
a long time. And it was like, oh my God, this is back. This is like back during the Cambridge Analytica days where it was like all this crazy stuff. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my God, I'm not getting back on here.
And you used to be on all the time.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
And I didn't even, it's like you don't notice it when you're on every day. But when you step away from it and you get back on, it's like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Kind of like addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, I talked to this morning while we were talking. We went into his settings and set limits on Instagram because you can set it for only 30 minutes a day of social media. And you can do a whitelist of which, because he's just wasting his time.
Yeah. Yeah. Those things are helpful, I guess.
Totally.
You know who first told me? It's so funny. First turned me on to the evils of social media was Christopher Ulrich. In the very beginning,
it's interesting.
When everyone was getting on, it was common, and I was like, this was great. Everybody was like, this is great. It's amazing. And he's like, I can't. It makes me sick. I can't stand it. It's too much stuff coming at me at once in a feed, and it's
stimulated very quickly.
Yeah. So, I just thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, what are you talking about? It was before this whole, it was so long ago that it was before this whole idea about social media being addictive was even in the public consciousness. So I was like, what are you talking about? And it was
think that has more to do with his neurodivergence than anything. Yeah.
Right. But still, it's also him being more sensitive to what was actually there. And it was like, in a sense, the way his brain works is more, in tune with how it really was. Whereas my being innocent, naive and kind of buying into it, I was not seeing it as it actually was. And he was. That's the way I see it.
I was talking to somebody about this last week. I like keeping up with my friends. I like seeing artists post their works in progress. And then their new works. Oh my God, I love that. What gallery is that? And I'll go check it out. There's so many good. It's kind of like, like anything else. It's not inherently good or evil, but it has been turned to evil, and it
didn't used to be like that in the beginning. Right. It was better. So, but
it was just like, this is a cool thing,
right?
And hopefully get replaced by something. I mean, the pendulum tends to, these days something better will come along. Like Blue Sky is taking over on, for what people used to do with Twitter.
Yeah. That's kind of where I've been more on. I've been on more, or I've been a moron.
That was always, that's nothing. I was scrolling through and I realized that it turns out I'm just following political people on Blue Sky. I'm like, somehow that happened. So I'll figure it out one of these days.
Well, the thing is like, there's that, you want to know what's going on in the world, especially when you get our age, when you get older, like when you're younger. Sure. I don't know. When I was younger, it seemed more like a discipline to keep yourself informed of stuff that was going on in the news. Like it kind of seemed more boring when I was younger, even though I was like, I was kind of interested in politics through
different interests.
Yeah. But like I was interested in politics through punk and stuff like that. But as far as like reading, wanting to be up on the interest rate cut that's coming up, stuff like that was just like, or who the senator of Vermont, it was just like, it seemed too overwhelming and kind of boring. But at our age, when you get old, this stuff becomes really interesting because you can see you can see the things change because of who becomes in power and laws that change and stuff. So there is, on one side of me, I want to stay informed. On the other side, I don't want to
too much.
I don't want to be like anxious all the time and freaking out. So it's kind of like, I don't really know what to do other than just back off of the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, you turn down the volume and you get enough balance in your life that it'll affect you. And somebody mentioned how scared they were on Facebook last week, and I said, good, because if you're an empathetic person and you're an intelligent person, then you should be scared. That's
Yeah.
an appropriate. There are people who are like, isn't this great? He's back in charge. Are you stupid?
Right.
No, this is why I'm going to get swatted later. It's not good. And look, the stock market's tanking again today.
I know.
Like if he had done nothing, we'd be fine.
I know.
He's mentally ill. He's not capable of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
good times. Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw Bernie Sanders did his thing in Michigan over the weekend. Last week, they booked a 2,000 seat venue. By Wednesday, they needed a 5,000 seat venue.
I saw
By
that.
Saturday, they needed a 10,000 seat venue.
Yeah. People are pissed. They're also, I think that at first people were really scared, and that fear is kind of turning to anger now because you see all these Tesla protests and burning charging stations and stuff. It's like people are starting to take action.
Yep.
So
it takes a minute. I mean, last time was when Paul Manafort got arrested. It's like the huge,
right.
Things now, well, of course, the FBI is completely compromised now, but, it's like people are taking to the streets. So we're getting back out there, and Bernie's message by this summer, he'll be in front of 25,000 people, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Changed.
Yeah.
That gives hope.
It's not going to be boring. That's for sure.
It's not going to be boring, man. You live in interesting times where that occurs. Yeah. Like, how about just 10% less interesting? Could we just a little less interesting? Too much.
I'll tell you though, what for me as a painter, as an artist, I can, if I can allow myself to shut everything off and get into a piece of work, that just resets my brain.
Totally.
So I would say to people that are that do any kind of creative, just like you're saying, gardening.
Totally.
Gardening is amazing. It's like.
Well, and I'm in tune with nature. Like we got a thing going on. Like I'm planting something in the ground and then I'm watering it, and it's taking in carbon dioxide and it's letting off oxygen. Totally. Like we've got a thing going on here.
Yeah. You respond. It's like you're responding to each other. It's really cool. It's amazing. It's like miraculous.
It's kind of like the earth knows what it's doing, and we should leave it alone.
Right.
You stop fucking it up.
Yeah.
Totally. Friday night, I went to Arch Enemy Arts. It's a really cool art gallery in Philly.
Yeah.
It does a lot of stuff, and the owners are awesome. And they do a first Friday. It's 6 to 9 every first Friday of every month. And Paul Commode is back in town. He's back.
I heard.
Back. And he was like, he took the train, and then they got him and brought him. And do you know Paul Romano?
I know the name.
Paul Romano, Philly guy.
He used to run a gallery, right? He's
done a lot of things.
Curator.
Well, he's an artist. He's a painter.
He's a painter.
And draws and
maybe I don't know him.
The cover of the Mastodon album Leviathan, the Moby Dick one. He's done a lot of album covers.
Oh wow.
He's a really pretty big guy, and he's just a super cool cat too. So he rolls in, and I was like, dude. I mean, he's super accomplished. A lot of album covers, like a lot of really cool stuff. And I was like, have you met Paul Commode? And he's like, no, why? And I'm like, because he's here. And this guy, I mean, super successful. And he would start fangirling. And then I'm like, Paul, this is Paul Romano. They knew of each other, but had never met. It was amazing.
That's so cool.
Super cool. And we had so much fun. I mean, Steve Clef were just sitting there giggling, like high-fiving, like girls at a Bieber concert. It's this meeting of amazing minds. And it's like, this is going to get us this sense of connection.
Right.
Connecting people amongst art and looking at art and having these shared experiences.
Definitely.
Is what's going to get us through this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great point because nothing can replace the real physical experience of being out with your people
Totally.
in reality and not, I mean, virtually it's great. If you can do Zoom art jams, that's also really helpful, I think. And that's what the whole art jam, Dark Art Society art jam thing started during COVID because people were isolated, and it really, I think, helped a lot of people get through it. But if you can, going to the real gallery, seeing the artwork in person, meeting the artists, connecting with your people is kind of like the very best thing you can do, I think.
I agree.
So if you have that's one, that's one bit of advice I would give is like, go get involved in the actual community where you can actually do something too.
Well, that's 100% and what I tell all my clients, no matter what's going on in your life, spend 1 hour a week doing service of some kind for somebody or something less fortunate than yourself. Animal shelter, food pantry, homeless shelter. Like, I mean,
Right.
there's so many. If you've got an old neighbor that needs their trash taken out, spend 1 hour a week. It'll change your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be, something personal,
Totally.
helping a friend out or that stuff like that really is good for your mental health. It's almost like should be part of mental hygiene is helping someone else.
You can't think your way into right action. In recovery circles, we say this all the time. You have to act your way into right thinking. I can't just sit at home and get better. I need to walk out the door and do something. Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just thinking like on a kind of more spiritual or cosmic level that I've often felt like, I can't think my way out of this situation. I need to something else. I'm thinking like, I don't know, say I have to come up with a show or I have to come up with a painting that's going to sell because I need to bill money. I'm not going to think my way out of that situation. It's like the real good artwork comes from somewhere else, not from analysis and thinking, and it's like you start sketching. You just start sketching. You start doing something first, and then something will kind of develop out of that. It's not like you sat there for 6 hours thinking, what would be the coolest drawing I could do or the coolest painting I could do, and then it comes to you, and then you do it. It's like you have to get in the chair or open the sketch pad, get ing. There's a parallel there for what we were just saying.
There, yeah, totally. I mean, I remember you once said the scariest thing you've ever seen is a blank canvas.
Did I say that? I don't remember.
You did. It was really fucking profound. I think it was on Facebook. Yeah, I'm giving you credit for it. It's like if Chet Zar, who's only sold 12,000 paintings, you still have that fear of how do I get started? You put the brush on the fucking canvas and you go.
Well, that's what
the first lesson was. We're just in this drawing class, which she would hand you, basically an outline sketch drawing. It was nothing complex, but you would turn it upside down,
right,
and then draw it. Because now I'm not looking at a finished drawing; I'm just looking at lines. And lines seem that intimidating. I can just mimic lines. Right. An exercise.
Yeah. That's kind of the principle of painting or drawing is that you don't. I remember Sean Barber. I took one of his classes. He's like, "Don't paint what you think it looks like. Paint what it actually looks like." And that's the hard part. And that's where it's like, it becomes really kind of a spiritual thing because your ego is all of your stored knowledge tells you, oh, that's a woman with blonde hair sitting in the chair and she's got a nose ring. And no, you're not painting that. You're supposed to, train yourself to see it for what it is. And what it is a series of shapes and colors and values. And you have to break it down like that. And it's just it's so interesting that that's kind of a spiritual truth in life,
If what you're looking at is too big and overwhelming, break it down into bite-sized chunks.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just for all of life.
Yeah. Right.
Somebody will call me going, I'm depressed and my place is a mess. And it's like, don't clean up your whole place today. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Take 1 5-foot by 5-foot section in the corner and straighten that. And tomorrow, and by the end of the week, you're like, holy shit, I cleaned the whole place up.
Right.
And you feel better about yourself because you took the actions that got it started.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting. It seems like these principles, if there are real, true principles that work, they kind of cross different areas of your life, and they work for all of them in general.
Totally agree with that. Yep.
It's a trip.
It's a lot harder to go from 0 to 1 than it is to go from 2 to 10.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's so true.
Right. Like that first day sober or that first draw of wine. Once you get started, you start building some momentum.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, about putting the pencil or putting the brush to the canvas or whatever. It's funny because there's this guy, Harley Brown. I don't know if you remember, I had him on years ago, this old timer, really great painter.
Like the book that you and Kenny Raines rave about.
Yeah.
Kenny Raines, shout out.
Yes. Hey, Kenny. I don't know that. I can't think
Canada.
of the name. It's Harley Brown. Essential Truths for Every Artist, I think, is what it's called. But one of the great bits of advice is it's very lighthearted. He's funny the way he talks about learning to paint and stuff. He's like, first thing to do is just put the paint on the canvas and make a mark so that you're showing the canvas who's the boss. You're like, so you're not intimidated by the canvas, like you were saying, a blank canvas. And it's like, that is such great advice. Even if that line doesn't even end up in the painting and you cover over it, it's a way of getting the ball rolling,
You're showing life who's boss by getting started.
Yep.
I thought about quit. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker for a lot of years, and I thought about quitting every day for a year. And that made me so anxious that I was smoking more. I was up to 2.25 packs a day. And until I actually said, these are my last 3 cigarettes. And the next day I didn't put nicotine in my body. And then I was a former smoker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it go? How hard was it? How long did it take you before you didn't have the physical withdrawals?
Here's the thing. Knowing a thing or two about addiction, when you make a decision and then you actually follow the action, that was so much of the battle. Like I kept telling myself it's going to be as bad as quitting heroin and it's just going to be awful. And it was a Saturday night. I had 3 cigarettes left and I said, these are my last 3. And I woke up Sunday morning and I had made the decision.
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable for about 3 days. I chewed a piece of gum Sunday. I chewed a piece of gum on Monday. And that was it.
Yeah. It's when you make it's the decision.
Yeah.
It's
and then the action. And then
right. And the action. Right. But the decision has to be like fully committed. It's like 100%. I'm done. Like I know I'm on a vape, right? I'm on the vape, but I did quit smoking. So it was like, it was easy, even though, it is easier than just quitting cold turkey. I know you don't like it, but I'm just saying, I thought it was going to be really difficult to make the transition. And it was like, I just had this point where I'm like, I'm just done. I'm done smoking. I don't like having to carry them. I don't have to like having to worry about having them with me all the time when I go somewhere.
All the time.
Yeah. Or
when you run out at night, you got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I was just over it.
What's a pack of cigarettes around in California right now?
Oh, it's like, I don't know, $12 or something.
I think they're probably 12 here.
It's insane.
16 or 18.
Yeah. That's another good reason. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So
totally.
Yeah. But that's what the taxes are there for. They're trying to get people to quit smoking. They tax them high because it's a public health hazard.
It really is, and the whole idea of you're going to pay more for health insurance if you smoke. Well, you should. I mean,
right.
It's a responsibility because it's a lot more when your lungs collapse.
Yeah. So anyway, I did quit.
Good for you.
So okay. I don't know. I guess there's not really. You don't have a list. You don't have a list of coping mechanisms for difficult political times, do you? Or do you just have basically the general advice that you just gave, which is like, don't.
Well, the most important thing for the next 3 years and 10 months is self-care. It's you take care of you. That's going to be.
And how do you
everybody?
How do you do that? How do you do self-care?
Okay, that's a great question. I mean, and of course it's different for everybody, and one of the things is going to be trial and error. I for a lot of years, I thought that getting a deep tissue massage was some kind of luxury, and I once a year, and then probably a year ago, I was like, you know what? I work really fucking hard. I listen to people in pain all day long, and I started doing it once a month, and that was awesome.
Oh, wow.
It's an expense, but it's not a crazy expense. I can afford it once a month. And in fact, I'm due. I got to call and schedule one, but I feel better after I've done it, and I build up because it's not just a spiritual thing and an emotional thing. There's a physical cost to stress.
Right.
There is lactic acid, there's cortisol, there's adrenaline, up and down and peaks and valleys. And we need to be drinking a lot of water, and we need to be getting a deep tissue massage every once in a while. And you can get a massage gun from, well, I won't say the big mail order place, but you can find a massage gun for $29 somewhere. And, it has that kind of pressure.
Right, yeah.
Get a friend and you can do each other's backs.
Right.
I exercise, and the way I started getting into shape was a year and a half after I quit smoking. I had put on some weight, shockingly enough, and I wasn't thrilled with that. And I hadn't exercised since I was probably in my early 20s because I'm a heroin addict and an alcoholic. Go figure. So there was an elderly couple in the neighborhood. They were like 80, and they had an old Nordic track, which is a cross-country ski machine.
Mm-hmm.
Used it for 15 years, but they were in their 80s. They'll get just taking up space. So I set it up in my living room and I decided I'm going to do 5 minutes a day. Now,
That's great.
so,
That's totally doable.
well, here's the thing. It is totally doable. I was probably 46, maybe. And 5 minutes, and I hadn't exercised in 25 years, probably. So I would get 4 minutes in and I would think, so this is how I die. Like literally sweating on mixing, blood pressure through the roof. Like, and I stuck with it. Like it's better than with a needle in my arm, but I was like literally so out of shape. And what instead of like most addicts and a lot of people these days with social media being with us, they're like, now I need to get a personal trainer and I need to scientifically engineered meals and supplements and protein shakes. And
Right.
I'm not doing any of that. Here's what I did. And this is a metaphor for every success in my life. Every Monday, I added 1 minute to the total. And that's it.
Wow.
So I went from 5 to 6 and then 9 to 10. And then when I got up from 39 to 40 minutes a day, which is like 6 or 7 miles across country skiing, that's a really good fucking workout.
Yeah.
Not out of breath by the end, but dropped 2 inches off my waist, added 2 inches to my shoulders. My blood pressure was lower. I was dealing with stress better. Like slow, incremental progress over time.
Right.
You're not going to get emotionally healthy or physically healthy or spiritually healthy overnight.
Right.
But slowly over time. And that was 7 years ago. Now, I don't have time to do it 5 days a week anymore because 40 minutes is a chunk of time.
Yeah.
But 2 to 3 days a week, I'm still doing it because it's a lot easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape.
Yeah, definitely.
You got to do the big changes first. And then once you get used to those, it's not so hard staying in shape.
That's great advice. And that is also, again, another parallel to meditation.
Totally.
To meditation, because meditation is so difficult at first. Yeah. But that's why they always tell you start like 5 to 10 minutes or a really short amount of time.
Minute.
Yeah, totally. a minute. You could start with that and then just keep adding, because you can get to that place where you can empty your mind for 20 minutes pretty much. And totally. You'll feel a thought come in and you'll let it go instead of having it capture all of your attention.
I suggest meditation to everybody, and they all say the exact same two things. One, I can't do focus. It doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me. Everybody says that.
Everybody says that beginning. And number two, and because I work with a lot of people with addiction, they all have trauma in their past, a significant amount of them will say, okay, so I sat very quietly and then I got anxious and had a panic attack.
Oh, really?
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
And so I'm going to address both of those. Now, the first one is, we suggest you think of an egg, and you think of an egg for 4 or 5 seconds, and then you think, well, I like mine over medium, and I like with the green Cholula sauce, and then a little cracked pepper, and then eggs are nice. And what did come first about the chicken? And that's everybody does that. Yeah. That's how our brains are thinking.
Yes.
Before you learn how to meditate. So just keep like with my exercise, do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 21 days of a new habit for your brain to develop a new neural pathway.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So if you do it every day for 3 weeks, give or take, it'll be the new normal. Now that's for bad habits too.
Mm-hmm.
If you smoke cigarettes every day for 21 days,
wow,
you're not a smoker. Congratulations.
Right.
So, so do it every day for 3 weeks. And, you can find 1 million simple relaxation meditations on YouTube. It's really pretty simple.
Yeah. At this point, there's so many resources for that.
For everybody. Yeah.
So that should be up on the list for sure.
That's a good idea.
For especially for these times.
Totally.
Let's get a meditation practice.
And a very wise yoga practitioner said to me once, if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate, you should meditate for 20.
That's great.
Yeah, that's true.
I love that. I totally fell off the wagon too, man. I fall off the wagon meditation all the time. But the important thing is that you get back on it. Just as soon as you can, you get back on it. You just make yourself do it. And for a while there, when I was, during COVID is really when I started. It's because I tried meditating my entire life. I knew it was good. I knew it was the right thing to do. And so I would do it for like 3 weeks at a time, 1 week at a time, and I'd fall off and I'd skip a day and then you get all bummed out. And then you just do it for 3 months. Anyway, it was my whole life up until COVID when I was like, okay, I'm going to seriously do this. And once I started doing it regularly, I felt weird when I wasn't doing it. Like I felt like I had to do it. It's same with like painting studies for my paintings. It's like I knew I should paint a little study. It makes the painting better in the long run. The final painting, I can sell it. There's all these reasons to do a study, but it was like,
win-win.
I just want to paint the thing. But once I forced myself to start painting these studies, and then the studies were easier to sell than the big paintings, then there was a financial incentive.
Sure.
And then Now it's like I feel weird if I don't do a study. It feels like uncomfortable,
Yeah,
you know? So I always have to do a study now. And that's good. It's better for the painting,
totally.
you know?
It's another income stream. Gets the
Yeah.
bills.
And it's you work the bugs out. It's like a practice run. It's a
Oh
study.
yeah.
You know, you figure your colors out, make sure that everything's working on a small scale. It's easier, quicker to paint something small, you know. But yeah, meditation the same way. That's the thing. It kind of drives me nuts when people say I can't do it. I've tried it. I'm one of those people it can't work for.
Doesn't work for me.
It's like my mind. I've got an incredibly active mind, and I was able to do it. And I know a lot of people who
Anybody can do it.
anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you are like schizophrenic or something, maybe you might have a hard time, or if you had some like a serious
an organic issue,
organic
yeah,
bipolar disorder, like heavily, or you're hallucinating, maybe, but your average person can do it. It just seems impossible though when you do it the first time.
the key to everything, all my success in life has been persistence.
Yeah.
Like, and I've never, cleared my mind completely, but like it's better than it was. And
Right.
when I meditate, I feel better. So of course I don't do like it's like when I do yoga 2-3 times a week, I feel fantastic.
Right.
So of course I haven't done yoga in like a year.
Yeah.
Because it works so well. It's like there's part of that humanity to I'm busy. Could I make time? Of course I could, because these are all the things I tell all my clients.
Right. Well, that's life is. You do your best. You do your best. You do what you
I
can.
didn't do yoga last week, but I went to a drawing class. So it's like,
right.
I'm juggling 8 balls at once, and my phone has blown up 19 times since we started talking.
Really?
Later, because I can say no to people these days, which I didn't used to be able to.
Right. That must be weird.
It's 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday. Sure, I'll pick up the phone. That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah.
So are you? For people who don't know, Dave, I don't know if you still do this or not, but Dave, you were like a sober coach for rock stars on tour. You would go on, or would you go on tour with them, or you would visit them when they were on tour, or you're just there for them if they need to call you, or how did that work?
Usually it's when somebody's in early recovery and they're still vulnerable and there's a lot of temptation on the road and I know this is going to shock a lot of your listeners. Successful musicians have been known to, on occasion, abuse drugs and alcohol. I know it's crazy. I know. I'm glad you're all sitting down for that. And so, I'd get a call from an agent or manager saying this guy needs, and it would be either on tour or in some cases, if they were recording in a, city they're not used to or they don't have meetings yet, I would go stay with them for a couple of weeks while they were in the studio every day, that kind of stuff. I've had a couple stay here actually, although none of them know that. It's just when somebody needs to get away and is in the public eye and they just need to just come stay with my place for a couple of weeks and we'll just hang out and hit some meetings.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I did it remote back in 2012. Now it's telehealth. Back then it was called Skype. It was like,
wow, you were
FaceTime.
You were one of the original remote therapists then, because that was not back then. That was not a common thing that I remember.
No, I don't know that anybody else was doing it.
Wow.
But it was ideal because they're in a different city every day. They're in Europe. They're in, and they're like with WhatsApp and FaceTime. I've got a huge caseload that are on any given day. I've got 4 or 5 continents right now, and there's some big tours going on this summer that I'll have people on that are, going to be in Europe and all over the place.
Oh, wow. So you're busy.
It's ideal. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
So did you notice an uptick in people contacting you after the election? Like, did you notice that more people are freaking out, or has it been just kind of like constant for a long time?
I was going to say in my field. Yeah. So what's the time of year when people relapse more? Yes. It's not like there's any, it's not like St. Patrick's Day. Those are the amateurs, all the time, so
right.
It's been significantly busy for quite some time. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I'm sure since COVID, at least.
COVID, it was bananas.
That's probably when it seemed like everyone was freaking out.
It hit it like private practice wise. First couple of years were slowish, and then 3 and 4 really picked up, and then by 5 and 6 I was just gangbusters, and that's when I was out on some really big tours. And then within a couple of years of that, it was COVID, and then it was just night and day, and then it never really slowed down.
Wow.
So I'm not complaining. I'm going to get a sign outside of the Trump administration, but it'll be in Portugal. It's not going to be here. So all my clients are like, "You're so funny. You're joking about moving to Portugal." And I'm like, "I'm not kidding." I built a motor on my house for alligators. They're like, "You're so funny." I'm like, I want to circle back for a second about
Okay.
we were talking meditation and how some people have panic attacks or get anxious.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
What's up with that?
I had a singer actually, a pretty big band they're technically they're not married, but they've been together forever. So I'll just say his brother-in-law, so his girlfriend's brother was an unexploded bomb technician.
Wow.
Right. I have a stressful job. I can't imagine
Yeah.
that. I mean, he did it for years in some really unsavory places. Like doing that, like in New York is bad, but if you're in like Iraq, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much PTSD.
Seriously, I bet.
And somebody suggested meditate, and he tried it, and he just went straight into panic attack. And I was like, here's the thing, dude. You're panicking all day long. When you meditate, it actually reveals what's going on in there.
Right.
Like, I mean, he's been in hypervigilant mode since that first bomb.
Well, and also I bet you when you go in to dismantle a bomb, you are in that meditative state. You're like,
Nothing else matters.
yeah,
Nothing.
you're completely
Super
tuned
hyper-focused.
out. So it's almost like meditation is like, okay, I got to diffuse the bomb again. I wonder if that's part of it.
Well, yeah, presumably, yeah, but the bomb being, your internal state.
Right.
So like, I've had plenty of women that had, something like the statistics are amongst women in 12-step fellowships, 85% have at least one instance of sexual assault. I honestly think that number's low.
Wow.
And a lot of these women try to meditate and then get anxious and panic because they've been in that hypervigilant state that whole time.
Right.
Yeah. And that's okay. You're going to need to actually kind of get used to the fact that you've been this anxious. And this is why you're acting out in lots of different ways, whether it's drugs and alcohol or hypersexual or whatever eating disorders. And you have to actually just kind of meditate until you can actually achieve that calm state again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you tell them? What do? You just keep doing it and have the panic attack, or what?
Well, you keep doing it, but you can also, there's plenty of things to help with PTSD. Like there's a process called EMDR, and there's a specialist for that. It involves a light wand and vibrational paddles and sounds in your ears, which basically what it's doing is, and I'm a huge proponent of it. I've sent a lot of clients down. I've actually done it myself. It's triggering a sense of sensory overload.
Huh.
Is your brain is so rapidly cycling because of the post-traumatic stress disorder, you're in a hypervigilant mode, that if you can kind of short circuit that, it's kind of like, do you know when there's an oil derrick that's on fire and they actually need to put an explosive down it and it blows it up and it gets rid of all the oxygen and that's what puts the fire out? It's kind of like that for your emotions. Like you're basically emotionally on fire and you need to kind of bombard it with this sensory overload, and that triggers your brain into actually slowing down.
So funny. Again, another parallel. The whole the thing about Alan Watts used to talk about how these Zen masters would get these students in to become Zen monks, and the Zen master would be so hard on them and just like overload them with hitting them with the stick when they didn't meditate,
screaming at them,
yelling at them, and then giving them those Zen koans, the unsolvable riddles. It's like
hand clapping.
Yeah, one hand clapping, and they would eventually get to a point where they would become so overloaded that everything would just fall away, and they would totally get it, and they'd get enlightenment or whatever. They'd be like, "Oh, I get it."
Overstimulation, and your brain just
interesting.
Totally.
Huh. Have you had clients that have gotten sober from ayahuasca retreats? Because now that is such a kind of a mainstream thing now.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what the success rate of that is, if you have, or if you've heard of it.
I can actually say this because he had me on his podcast and wrote a book about it. And it's actually a fascinating book. He's got Jeff Rickley, who's in a band called Thursday. He's the singer. He, drug addict, alcoholic. He got sober a while ago. And one of the things he tried Suboxone, which is like an opiate, a synthetic opiate, which it'll work in the short term. It's a harm reduction thing. But the idea being you need to wean off of it. And most people actually don't actually get sober off of it. And then he went to Mexico and I don't remember if he did ibogaine or ayahuasca. I think he did ayahuasca and had, like a 3-day, removal from self, psychic rebirth. But the problem with that being, if you don't follow it up with, I think psychedelic excursions can be revelatory and can change you in the short term, but to then follow it up with meetings, maybe some therapy, maybe a counselor, there needs to be, because the thing about addiction is it's a lifelong disease. You're never cured of it.
It seems
You
so
know,
unfair.
well, I got a career out of it, so it's working okay for me.
I mean,
Okay.
any diabetes is unfair. Any, bipolar
Like
disorder is
everybody's
unfair.
got their something.
Everybody's got
But here's the
something.
thing, though. I can just not do heroin. Like there are people with eating disorders. Like you got to eat.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah, yeah.
sex addict. You're still going to want to have sex. You just got to be really careful about. So
Right.
all the addictions, I'm doing okay. You know. But he wrote a book called. Hang on, wait a minute. Let me think. Someone Who Isn't Me. And it's actually because of the pretentious intellectual douchebag that Jeff is. It parallels Dante's Inferno, just the metaphor being addiction and coming back out
That's
of.
cool. That's cool.
It's totally worth reading. Yeah,
What's it called?
Someone Who Isn't Me.
Okay. Interesting.
Jeffrey Rickley. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
So basically, you're saying there is value there, but it's not a magic cure.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people hold it up as a magical cure because I'm sure there may be outliers who do have kind of like they never go back to it, maybe like, but that's probably
And
always.
there are people that there are people that just kind of one day went, I can't do this anymore, and didn't. You know,
Right.
I'm not one of those people. I needed to go to treatment, and I
Right.
do support groups to this day.
Yeah. So I'm sure as a counselor, you have to like look at the way most people
Yeah.
get sober.
Yeah.
Rather than the outliers.
And there are plenty of different fellowships and programs. Some are spiritual, some are religious, some are neither, some are scientific. You know, there are plenty of programs out there that you can find something that works for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find that people, especially nowadays, people have an issue with the higher power aspect of AA?
Oh, sure.
Because atheism is more of a thing nowadays. It's like more people are atheists, I think, now than ever. So it's like, it seems like, and you have to, that's an essential part of the AA program, right? Is having a higher power.
Disagree.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
that's what I've always heard. I don't.
The idea being you can make the higher power anything you want. You can be a Buddhist, which is a non-theistic spiritual path. There's no deity.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a Satanist. You can worship Cthulhu. You can, I mean, like, people look at AA itself as a power that is greater than themselves. If I go to these meetings, it will help me stay sober. It doesn't have to be an entity.
So as long, okay.
And I know some agnostics, and I know some people that practice yoga, and but a lot of people look at the God word and the steps and go, oh boy, it's religious. And it's really not. It's more spiritual than anything. And the difference being, and I'm glad we brought this up, religious paths tend to be for people that don't want to go to hell. Spiritual paths are for people that have already been there and don't want to go back.
That's a great line. Is that your own line?
No. I'd love you. I'll take credit for all these. These are all mine, one day at a time. That was me. No. 98% of the stuff that comes out of my mouth, somebody's smarter than me.
That's fair. That's fair. As long as you're getting the word out there.
Just stand on the shoulders of some giants.
Yeah, that's a.
But there's smart recovery, which is more of a science-based, evidence-based. There's celebrate recovery, which is like a Christian-based thing. There's Dharma. Wait a minute, hang on. What's the Noah Levine thing? Refuge recovery, Dharma recovery, where it's more of a Buddhist meditative. So there's plenty of things out there that you can if you do a little Googling, you can figure out where you fit.
Interesting. Probably, it's probably a better time to be an addict than ever before, I would say. As much as that sounds fucked up, it's like there's more
tons of resources,
access and resources than there's ever been for people with
and
addiction
there are
issues.
a lot of very cool people talking about how I don't use anymore.
Right.
It's like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There are some significant figures in the public eye that'll talk about being in recovery. And
right.
That's great.
Right. Yeah. Huh. So, do you feel like you have how do I say this? What is the success rate with your clientele? Do you have like a percent? Do you have a better than average? Does every counselor have a different success rate? Or is it like there is a success rate that's just kind of generic across no matter who's doing it? If someone's doing the program, they have success this much of the time.
And then it also depends on how you define success.
Yeah.
In recovery, is it some success? Is it, because you don't know after they stop being a client years, decades later.
Oh, right. Yeah. So people don't always continue to check in with you after
Plenty do. And I also, a lot of them are touring professionals. So I'll get a phone call like, we're going to be at this venue on this date, coming to the show. That happens I'm out of shows a couple nights a week for years on end until I realized I need to get to bed by 10 because I'm old now. So like really big rock bands, so like I'm turning shows down. And it's like if you had told me that when I was 20, that they're like, "Hey, dude, come to the show," and I'm like, I got a client at 9 in the morning. I gotta. Um, but it's like when I was working an inpatient, if they successfully completed what they had to do while they were there and stayed until they successfully discharged, as opposed to leaving against medical advice, there's so many different metrics.
True.
And,
Yeah.
and in private practice, there's a certain level of internal motivation, which, like most addicts and alcoholics, start the process externally motivated. And by that, I mean spouse threatened them with divorce, got a DUI, ran out of money, something outside you. There were consequences. And I think one of my big tricks was when I was working at inpatient and outpatient too, I'm very good at helping people start internalizing their motivation. After a couple of weeks, let's take a look at, just how many reasons that you really should try this lifestyle instead. And when you're in private practice, I'd say 99 out of 100 people approach me internally motivated already. So it probably skews the figures.
Okay.
Stay sober. Otherwise, they'd be stuck in an inpatient place.
Okay. So you have a pretty good success rate is what you're saying.
Even then, I had a really high success rate to the point where one of my issues, like 12 years ago when I left the field, I resigned from my last placement. I've had people above me that were very threatened by the level of competence, the level of how much the clients liked me. Like you said, everybody loves you. If I got a clinical supervisor that's a very insecure person and he's like trying to sabotage my success.
You'd think that wouldn't happen in the mental health field.
You would be stunned at the amount of gatekeeping that goes on.
Oh my God.
The last place I worked, the guy who got the big promotion, narcissistic personality disorder, and he had already drinking non-alcoholic beer. He would go to one meeting a year and he was drinking, which has a little bit of alcohol in it. So technically he's already back in active addiction.
Wow.
And shockingly enough, like when you're running the most successful department in the company and generating a ton of revenue and everybody liked me and I became a threat. And that wasn't the first place that happened.
That's crazy, man. It's everywhere.
You would think in a healthy field. Well, how many people go into therapy that are relatively insecure to begin with?
Yeah, true.
People go in for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Like, I'll help people, and that way I won't have to look at my own issues. And it's like,
yeah, you hear a lot of people that have serious mental health problems end up getting into becoming counselors and stuff. And you're like
a lot of alcoholics and addicts,
right.
Some of them have underlying borderline or narcissistic or
Right. I mean, it makes sense. It seems like a good idea because you have been through it.
Sure.
But on the other hand, like you're saying, there may be
but it also actively working on yourself.
Yeah, right.
And every good therapist I know has a therapist.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. It's like, how do you deal with, because you're living in the world that we're all living in, and you're stressed about all the stuff that we're stressed out about, but you're also taking on all of these other people's stress. So you talk to someone, I assume. Yeah.
Not everybody, but yeah, I know I have people in my life. And not just that I have seen a therapist twice since I got sober, but I have a couple of people in the field that, every 6 months we go out and have dinner.
Okay.
And, some mozzarella sticks and get some comfort food and go, you think your clients are crazy. It's like, we just kind of vent about it. We feel better. We touch. Yeah. Go back and forth. Yeah. No, and I have plenty of, non-therapeutic outlets, the gardening and the exercise and all the other stuff. Yeah.
Right.
I build frames. I work with wood.
You build frames?
Yeah. Oh, wait, I just framed one of yours.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
And I got a mat cutter, so now I do mat too.
That's amazing.
Framing stuff is really expensive.
Oh yeah, frames are really expensive.
$5 a piece.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's great. You did that whole thing, huh?
The wood, the plex, the mat.
Amazing.
The acid-free tape.
That's impressive. That's super cool.
Michael Hussar back there.
No, what? Wait. That's got to be a print, right?
That's a print. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I was gonna say
that is an artist proof. But he does the black and white so well, and I was like, dude, I need to make a black and white frame.
So you did that frame? That's awesome. Let me see that again. Can I see that again?
Like, wow, I'm getting good at this.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think so too.
Yeah, that's great. Did you show it to him? You should send him a picture of that.
I posted it on Instagram and I think I tagged him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's so cool. That's amazing.
I think so too. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So that's
Plus,
part
that
of,
would have been a $900 frame if I took it to the
oh
place.
yeah, probably more than that. I just, for those two, I did those two. I don't know if you saw those blood rose paintings I did, the skull and the rose, 24 by 30.
Yeah.
I got them both framed, and my framer's got the best prices in town, and he's really good. But it was like almost $900 to frame both of those 24 by 30s. It's like that's a lot of money,
A lot of money.
and it's fun though. You're making it, and it's you enjoy it, right?
I love it. So I'm guessing between 30 and 40 for that guy,
Wow. Yeah.
maybe 50.
Yeah.
Probably 70 or 80 for the bigger one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a couple of Gottfried Helmwein prints that are, would have run, like a 30 by 40 would have run at least 1,200-1,300 bucks easy, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 He's great. He's great. Old school guy, Gottfried Helmwein.
Oh my
I
God.
know him from back on the Scorpions album cover. Do you know what I'm talking
Right.
about?
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Blackout.
So totally. Yep. Totally. That's one of his right back here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. He's amazing.
Oh my God. His stuff's bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like one of my earliest like album covers where I was just like, that is so badass with the forks in
Yeah.
the eyes.
Totally. Totally. And then you find out the story later. You're like, dude, that was self-portrait? Like, wow.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
And he did it right. He did it. Once his paintings started selling for a lot of money, he bought a castle in Ireland. And
I
went
know.
Full Harry Potter, candelabras and geese and ducks and owls. Dude, bananas.
You don't have to pay taxes if you're an artist in Ireland.
Really?
Yeah. There's like some special program,
That's amazing.
but I'm sure it's not like they just let anyone in. You have to be Gottfried Helmwein to
Right,
get.
you actually have to be an artist that's good. I'll
Yeah,
show up my customers and be like, hey, dude, no taxes.
You have to have an artist that can afford to buy you have to be an artist that can afford to pay your taxes in order to get your tax break in Ireland, probably
Seems
is my
ironic.
guess.
Yeah, if you can afford a castle, you can afford taxes.
But man, I'm Irish, man. I got my mom's maiden name's McBride. We're like Irish
Well,
and
if that's the
Scottish.
case, then you should look into dual citizenship right now.
Yeah, really. I
You should
wonder.
do it right now.
I'm not gonna run. This is my home.
Yeah. I just want to have an extra place just in case.
Well, my daughter-in-law has family in Mexico. So
Okay.
there's Mexico. I've got a lot of friends in Canada.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm too much of a lazy
I
bastard.
got a lot of stuff, dude. I don't want to have to pack everything. Like, I have a lot of stuff. Yeah.
I'm too lazy to move, man. I'm too lazy to move.
Totally.
But anyway, we're just kind of joking. But
We're just kidding. Not going anywhere.
but this, this gets us back to this self-care
Yeah, sure.
stuff. This is part of your self-care is he's learning a new skill, learning to draw, getting your massage. I mean, this is really what it's all about. Is taking care of yourself. But I think that people get like, okay, massage, meditation, but a lot of people don't get that doing something creative is a big part of self-care. Like gardening is a creative. Totally. I mean, what's more creative than growing a plant? You're working with the earth to create something new. It's amazing.
Just the act of creation, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like the thing is, I think being creative in general is super healing, and that really is maybe I don't know, under emphasized as far as part of a self-care.
Because there's nothing
regimen.
practical about it. And in today's society,
Right. Everything's about being utilitarian.
Bucks, bigger house, bigger car, smaller phone.
Right, right.
What about just appreciating beauty? Like when did we forget about that?
Yeah. Or making something with your hands feels
Or
so.
even better, making something beautiful. Like cooking is such a cool
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
can eat it. It's like art you can eat.
I know.
Like, this is awesome.
It's so true. It's so true. So, I mean, I think most people who listen to this podcast are artists generally, but so they don't need to be told, but that's kind of my go-to.
Well,
That's really my go-to to.
Although merchandising your stuff is important and you want to pay the bills, don't forget to just fall in love with the process of making art again.
Yeah, yeah. That's what if it gets too much for me and I just feel like totally stressed.
Yeah.
Being that I am, unless I have some major deadline or something I have to hit,
Yeah.
I'll just stop everything. Like sometimes there's so many things to do. I get overwhelmed and I can't do any of them. And I just sit there thinking, which one am I going to start? How should I do this? And then I end up watching a YouTube video or, just totally, and I waste a day. So now what I'm trying to do is when things get overwhelming like that, stop everything, paint something really cool that you want to do for fun. And that seems to break the spell of that analysis paralysis, overwhelm thing that happens. And it like recharges you, resets you. And it's such a good feeling when you make something, when you create something that is good. It's so much fun. It really, it's a kind of life altering. And it allows you to, I feel like it allows you to get back to the crap you don't want to do. You know what I mean?
Well, I will go to see a band that is not a client of mine.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you, I think that, I was 15, 16, music literally was transcendent. It was probably my first spiritual experience.
Totally.
And, still to this day, there's like a cathedral of music where I see it live. And like, when I'm going to see a band that I work with, it's like, I know the backstory, I know what's going on.
You know how the sausage is made. It's not the same.
I can't just relax and,
right.
But like days where there's a band that I like and they're making music that I like, and I go and just like forget about all the bullshit. Like, because that's why I love music, because it makes me forget all the bullshit.
Yeah. And it feels good. It's
there's for an hour and a half.
It's like music is so powerful. It's literally like a drug. It gives you the same effect. A really good band will give you the same effect that a drug does. Totally. So it's like we all want to feel good. We're all in pain, and there are good ways of feeling good, and there's bad ways of feeling good, or ways that not even morally bad, but just like
with negative consequences versus
right, ones that are healthy.
Feels good.
Yeah, ones that are healthy for you. So it's a matter of, I guess, rewiring your brain to do the ones that are healthy, and
totally.
It's just
the peace and calm out of something that's a lot more subtle than hitting myself in the head with a shovel.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It just seems so simple when you talk about it like that, but apparently, life isn't that simple in practice, I suppose.
We get caught up in these bad feedback loops, and like, I'll just refresh one more time. And I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
Just like running from something. And 6 hours later of Facebook and Instagram and Reddit, and I'm like, okay, I accomplished nothing.
Oh man, yeah.
So social media was like, for me, I was never a big pot guy. It didn't do it for me. But like, if I spend all day on social media, it's like those days when I was smoking pot. Like, I didn't really accomplish anything. I don't feel any better than I did.
Right, yeah.
I'm self-reflecting negatively on myself.
Yeah, you feel worse, if anything, at the end of it,
Check in the morning, check it at night, and get off it. I'm going to go read a book.
Yeah. Do you give yourself like limits on that, on social media now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually mess with the settings, but I know when I've like, it's time to just, because I'll log out as opposed to leaving it on all day long.
Okay.
Like, I used to have MSNBC on all day long.
Right.
And it wasn't healthy.
I did too. I used to too.
And I haven't watched it since the election.
Yeah, same here. Well, I actually let my I think this is even before COVID. I finally let my cable go. Like it was.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, there was some reason I didn't renew my cable, and I don't remember why. But nobody was watching it except me. I guess it was me and Lisa, and she was just watch stuff on YouTube. And I noticed I was watching stuff on YouTube, so I was like, I just let it go, and it's like, it was a pretty good decision because you can get pretty much whatever you need online. Yeah. And so I don't have cable anymore, so I don't have the option of having MSNBC. And when you don't have the option,
Well, when I quit smoking, it's not an option anymore, and all of a sudden it was easier.
Right.
Think about it.
Right. So, I don't know. That's pretty good advice for people. So self-care. I would say that all of this.
Criterion channel is like, film.
Say again?
The Criterion channel.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
It's Art Bergman. It's a lot of French directors, as opposed to, you can watch,
yeah, it's not,
it's like $8 a month or something.
Yeah. That's I don't have the Criterion channel, but I always think about it. But it's funny because I've been watching on HBO or Max, they call it now. I've subscribed to that, and they've got Turner Classic Movies on there. I've been watching all old movies.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Yeah. And it's not great, driving me crazy.
Yeah, it's like, and it's and I said this, I think, in a recent podcast. It's so funny how the issues they're addressing are the same things that we're addressing now. It's like wealth inequality, poor people getting screwed, people judging other people for their station in life. It's so funny how it's like same
Racism,
shit we're dealing. Right. Yeah. Right.
All these metaphors. Yeah, totally.
It's so interesting how it's like nothing changes. It seems like not really.
We're just a little more angry at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bummer, man.
It is.
It's a bummer.
This is the playbook,
A lot of people growing up with this as well don't know any other way. This is baseline reality.
I drove downtown to pick up. There was the bass player of a very big band was in town, and their production assistant. They wanted to go to a meeting, so I picked them up, and we went to Drexel's campus. There was a meeting, and it was like 12 co-eds, so they were maybe 18 to 23 or 4. It was awesome. Like Thursday, it was a couple weeks before the election. Like they're my heroes. They're in college. They're sober. They're killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized they've never known a Republican Party that wasn't run by Donald Trump.
Right.
That's the option. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is what they think elections are about.
Yeah. This is normal.
This is perfectly like, and I was like, holy crap. Because you remember when we thought Mitt Romney was an existential fucking threat? Like, and I'm going, Mitt, I'm sorry I forsook you. Come back, Mitt. Like, oh my God.
That's one, that's one thing to come out of this is I feel like as a liberal, I guess, I don't know what you call me.
Left of
they're changing, shit lib. They probably call me a shit lib. I don't know. There's like all these new terms for people on the left and liberal and whatever. But
it's hard.
Right. It's been really personally, it's really helped me to grow, to think about throwing the word around like Nazi back with, Bush Jr. and fascist and they were saying that stuff.
May have been a fascist, yeah.
Yeah, but comparing it to now, it's like, when you use those words all the time, it becomes like the boy who cried wolf syndrome, where it's like,
and what's going to happen in another 10 or 20 years?
I know.
Get more extreme?
I know.
And I don't know the answer to that.
You're the answer man.
Yeah. Well, I got news for you. Yeah. I mean, I remember, and I know we didn't want to do politics, but it's I remember when John McCain was running and they introduced Sarah Palin at the RNC, and she got up there and she did her thing. And she's like, well, that's the difference between a hockey mom and the lipstick. And the place went insane. And I remember thinking, this is not good.
Right.
And I went in the next day, and it was the last facility I worked at. And the owner was a very right-wing guy, very Christian guy that would do missions and I don't want to get too specific, but a lot of the administration and the front office was people he brought in from his church. And they were all these women that were in their mid-20s, and they were Googling her, and they were like giddy with, oh my God, did you see it last? Oh my God, she's so amazing. Lit the roof on.
Yeah, she was kind of like the prototype for Trump in a way.
Really getting, and I can't say that the whole reality TV.
Yeah.
And you remember when I think it was Jane Pauley or some reporter asked her, what periodicals?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All of them.
And she said, all of them. And then like the feedback was, is this woman stupid? And that was gotcha journalism.
Right.
You mean like journalism? Like, and I remember then going, this is really, and here we are. And here we are. Yep. There's no truth. There's post-facts. There's convicted felons. There's a thrown Supreme Court. There's, just out in the open bribery.
Yeah. It's crazy, like, man.
That's the, so where's it going to be in 10 years? Mad Max. The answer is Mad Max. Get yourself a motorcycle and get yourself a mohawk and some body armor and a bazooka, and we're going to be fine.
Some assless chaps.
Well, I had those anyway. But the point being, which pair?
You got a head start already.
Yeah, I'm thinking Mad Max. Dude. I'm thinking that's where we're headed.
Okay, but here's my hopeful outlook. This is what I think. As much as that seems to be true, that in 10 years it's going to be insane and Mad Max, like, here's the thing. Our hope lies in the fact that things are not just going totally right-wing. They're going more chaos, more chaotic. And nobody can control that because it's so much chaos and there's so much new information and new technologies. And it's like the singularity in a way. No one will be able to control or harness that. So anything could change in a moment. Anything could change either way in a moment, which is scary because things could go really bad in a moment, but things could be like, we could have in 2 weeks from now, there could be some huge Black Lives Matter type situation where people are just out on the street. It could happen because
or dude could stroke out.
Yeah.
And then nobody's going to be able to be as narcissistic as he is. And they just won't have the same magic.
Point being is that anything could happen and no one is really in control of anything.
No. And you think about the powers that be that backed him on the way up and they're like, oh, great. And they're like, they are like, oh shit, we got everything's going to hell.
Yeah. Right.
And the stock market's tanking, and they're like, "This wasn't what we wanted him to do. What we wanted." So it's like nobody's calling. It's just bananas.
And it's just nobody. So I feel like a way to navigate these times is to surf the waves of chaos.
You can't control the waves. Learn to surf.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, and that requires a centered way of being. Like Alan Watts says, the thing about...
And we do want to preface Alan Watts when we quote him by saying the man was drinking rum 18 hours a day, God bless him, but he was a really wise dude. So
he was a hardcore alcoholic. He died in his 50s.
Yeah, totally. But I love him.
Yeah, so why isn't there an Alan Watts documentary about, because what a story. This guy was a genius, a brilliant orator. He was the first guy, I think, to bring Eastern philosophy to the West and be able to explain it in a way that made sense. He was amazing at speaking, but he's a fucking total drunk. Hardcore
drunk.
And he kind of used that Zen philosophy to justify his drinking too. Cause it's like, he had a very...
In the moments, I'm not yet.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. It's like, I'm not, and it's like, okay, well.
Do you know about Uma Thurman's dad?
No, I don't know. Who is that?
Bob Thurman. He's he teaches Eastern mysticism at Columbia. He was the first fully ordained Westerner to become a Buddhist monk.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Like, could Uma be any cooler? Like, what? How did that even happen? That's awesome.
I did hear something about that. Like I remember hearing she was a Buddhist or something, and that makes
that's
awesome.
I don't know, but he is.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Totally.
So anyway, what I was saying was, Alan Watts. Oh, like he said with martial arts, I think he uses judo or something, or one of these martial arts. He was saying that the way that you stay centered and you don't anticipate an approach from any direction, and therefore you're ready to respond to any direction because you're not focusing in front of you. You're not focusing on anything. You're like centered and not thinking. I don't know how martial arts. I don't practice.
Wearing life like a loose garment.
What's that?
Wearing life like a loose garment.
I've never heard that one. That's another good one.
I mean, one of the things I talk to all my clients about is none of this process is going to make your life easier. It's going to give you emotional flexibility because you're going to get curveballs. If it's not once a day, it's going to be once a week. It's going to be once a month. But you want to be, and the metaphor I always use is, there's an oak tree that is very stout and sturdy, and there's the willow tree that's very flexible. Mm-hmm. And when the hurricane comes, the oak tree snaps in half and the willow tree bends in the wind. And when the hurricane's over,
right.
I want to be a willow tree.
Yeah. Exactly. Bend with the wind. So that's the idea of being flexible. That's another thing Alan Watts talked about. Be flexible and willing to deal with things as they come. But the thing is that you have to have a certain amount of self-confidence so that you can handle it. Yeah. But you can handle it. Everybody can handle it because they've handled it their entire lives. You always handle it.
What is your success rate for having survived all the stuff life's thrown at you so far?
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Exactly.
Dude. Every single thing.
And that's every person out here listening right now. You've been 100% successful at staying alive.
To go with grace and humility, but I'm still here. And I'm,
Exactly.
Is democracy going to survive? I don't know, but I am,
Right.
and you are, and
Yep.
we are,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
going to do it together. I don't know what it's going to look like in 4
Yeah.
years. I'm with you. Is
Well,
my retirement account going to survive? I don't know that either.
at
But
least you have a
I'm going.
retirement account.
Yeah, I got a couple of pennies that might be worth something. Like you said. I'll barter the Eclipse gum that I've got.
That's another point I wanted to make too, about surviving these times.
Yeah.
Is I think it's a very simple thing to do as well, but that is just stay in communication with your friends and
Totally.
people that you trust and
Totally.
people that care about you.
Totally.
You're on, even if it's your online community, get in touch, stay in touch,
Connection. Connection.
Yeah, connection. It's like I've got a couple text threads ongoing, and it's like those are great. Just you're talking, you're
busting your friends' balls.
Yeah.
Sitting down over a meal. Like I was at a dinner party Saturday night, and this came up frequently, but we laughed a lot. We had a good time. We had a good meal. That ate. It was a great time.
Yeah. So that's part of self-care. That's, make sure you stay connected with people, especially if you, like you're saying, you went to the first Fridays at Arch Enemy, and you got to see Paul, you got to see Steve Clef, you saw
Amanda was there. Yeah, it was a whole crew.
Yeah. So it's like that. How healing is that? I went, when I go to a show
and saw some cool art.
Yeah. It's amazing. Art shows are amazing. Same with seeing bands play. It's like it's
a communal activity that we can all use our ego walls with and have a similar experience, and that collective conscious that we're all hoping to be a part of.
Yeah. And so community is just so important, and it's so easy to get isolated nowadays. It's never been easier to isolate yourself.
And I also want to say there's a difference between solitude and isolation.
Right.
Like for me, I'm an introvert, so I listen to people talk all day long, and I interact with people, and I'm exhausted by Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to get a little solitude. I need to spend Saturday making something out of wood, being in the backyard, doing my thing. If you call me, I might not get back to you.
Right.
And that's okay. Don't take it personally. As opposed to the whole isolating where I'm sitting by myself at home and in my head. And
yeah.
Positive. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I'm the same way. I make the joke that I never leave the house, but it's like I'm so happy doing what I'm doing. And then when I like my environment. Yeah, it's great. And I'm so comfortable, and it's so fun. Every day I'm like, this is even if there's the end of the day when I go to sleep, I'm so grateful that I had this amazing day. Is even if there was a shitty, terrible thing that happened, I'm always have gratitude for every single day. Because it's so amazing. Life is really so amazing.
Another opportunity to achieve enlightenment.
What's that?
It's another opportunity to achieve enlightenment.
Yeah, absolutely.
One more day.
Yep, absolutely. But and I inevitably end up kind of. I'll go to a show. I'll go to an art show on occasion if I'm in a show, if it's a friend of mine's, and I never ever. Sometimes I'm like. Because you get comfortable staying at home. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to go. It's a long drive, blah, blah, blah. But I always go, and I never regret it. I'm always like, I'm so glad I did this.
By Friday night, I'm like, do I really want to put my shoes on? Like, really? And then as soon as I'm in the car, I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Going from 0 to 1 as opposed to going to 10. Once you get out the front door, you're going to have a good time.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like there has been some good positive advice.
Well, look, I mean, some of the best punk rock music I've ever heard in my life was during the Reagan administration.
I was just talking to somebody, and that's the first thing that we were talking about, how crazy things are. And some guy that was coming, because I got this roof issue, he was coming to give me a estimate on the roof, and he was like, his first thing he said, we were talking about how crazy things were. He's like, "Oh man, but the art and music is going to be so good."
Totally. Well, it's like Hunter Rollins said, this is what Joe Strummer trained us for.
Right.
I got to throw a couple of bricks through a couple of windows. And I guess, are we winding down?
Yeah.
All right. So
we're winding down.
When was the last time? Here's the final metaphor. When was the last time somebody talked to you about Rush Limbaugh?
Right. Long time ago.
The hate mongers and the fear mongers and the people that are, hypocrites and assholes, as soon as they're either dead or fired by Fox News, you never hear from them again.
Right. Yeah. The ones that last are the ones that are actually like
Gandhis and the Martin Luther Kings and and the Bernie Sanderses.
Yep. And the Alan Watts, even though they're drunks.
Lots of other drunks. Totally. Those are the people that, have a lasting impact and they have a legacy.
Yeah, right. Um, yeah, yeah. I was going to say one last thing. I don't know. I feel like, I was going to say, this is the point I also want to make. Coming from an artist perspective to other artists, I know a lot of artists listen to this. It's more important than ever to create art right now. And that doesn't mean you have to make a painting of Donald Trump that looks like a monster or something so obvious and editorial. That's more of a political cartoon. If you're a political cartoonist, great, do it. But if you are an artist that paints whatever, skull flowers, whatever you're doing at the time.
Would ever do that?
What asshole would do that? That was a stupid idea.
That's crazy talk.
But I mean, whatever you do, landscapes, that's what you should do. And I feel like that gets lost. Like people feel like they need to respond in a way that is not really effective because they're thinking, I have to make my art political. Your art is already political just by you making it. You're putting a beautiful, amazing thing in the world that didn't exist before. And that gives people hope.
Yeah. And I want to see something outside of what I already knew.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We all know that. But I feel like if you have an inspired idea that is reflective of the times, that's awesome too. But you don't have to. Sometimes artists, or I'm coming from my perspective, you can feel obligated to paint a certain thing for the times. And then it's kind of disingenuous. It's not truly where your heart's at. And in order for the artwork to be good, I feel like it has to be from your heart. So you need to paint more than ever from your heart. If it seems like it's reflecting the times, or if it doesn't feel like it's reflecting the times, it doesn't matter. If it's from your heart, it is reflecting your time. It's reflecting something in you, and you have to trust that that's what the world needs right now, is the thing that's in your heart as an artist. So just make it. And that's really, as artists,
that's what we want to see.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what you want to see. You want to see this like inspired thing that you don't necessarily want to see something that's beating you over the head with a message. You want to see something that's real. Yeah. Right. As an art fan, you want to see something that is real and inspired.
I want authenticity, and I want the person's genuine soul on the canvas.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for, and you can tell.
Yeah, you can tell.
The reason we all love Kurt Cobain is because he's the real deal.
Right. Yeah. So that's a point I just wanted to make. So it's like, make art.
It makes life bearable. So please.
Exactly.
Inspiration, help me, cope with life.
Yeah. Right. That's for political organizers, this is their time to do their organizing. For artists, it's our time to do our artwork, like art harder. It's just like,
right.
You do what you feel like you need to do in other areas, but as an artist, everyone, has to just do their authentic thing. And I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I just stay true to yourself.
Stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what the world needs.
Yeah, totally.
And
we don't need any more politicians.
That will make
art.
That will make the world better. Even if it seems like it won't, it will. I believe it will help.
That's what trained us for.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, okay. So, thank you so much. It was always a great conversation. Love talking to you. How do people find you if they want to talk to you too? I don't know if
theroadtorehab.com.
theroadtorehab.com. We will put that in the show notes as well, but they can contact you. And if I know there's a lot of people that, if you can't, you could always probably recommend somebody or.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We will, you can use me as a resource too. If there's, something specific you need, I can probably help.
You have a network of people that you trust, and
I do. A small one, but yes. Yes, I do. and there's a perfectly valid thing right now going around that a lot of clinicians aren't taking on new clients because they're just so full.
Right.
It's like, on the one hand, I'm really busy. On the other hand, I'm really busy. It's like one of those. Yeah. And the good ones,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, And I can understand people with healthcare being what it is, that it's a really tough time. And there are free resources. And there are community health centers, and there are, you know, various support groups that you can find in your community for free. And I'll be more than happy to steer you in the right direction. So yeah, by all means, there's contact info on the road to rehab.com. And I'll be more than happy to answer emails. I might not be able to get back to you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And if on the weekend, I might wait until Monday morning, but I will get back to you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being such a great resource, an important part of the Dark Art Society. You know, I make the joke that you're the official mental health counselor for the Dark Art Society, but it's true. It's actually true. Like, a lot of people from this community talk to you, and so.
And here's the thing, I grew up, you know, just a mess of a kid, but visual art and audio art saved me.
Wow.
Enriched my life a million times, saved my life probably about 1,000. So the fact that I'm in a place where, you know, visual artists and musicians and people in both of those fields, you know, techs and sound guys, and call me, and like, I'm so unbelievably fortunate.
Yeah, that's so cool. You're able to give back to the thing that helped you.
Liner notes in you know, albums mention me, and they're like, you know, books of artists mention. It's just so ridiculous.
That's awesome, man.
So thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And the last thing we need to do, don't hang up, but the last thing you need to do is say goodbye to the audience in any way that you want.
How about namaste?
Namaste. All right. Thanks, everybody.